Right, here we are, live testing session, and I'm joined in the commentary with Chris Whitehead here.
Right, Mark, so what did they need to do to be able to qualify to come in and take their bronze test this afternoon?
Well, there is an eligibility criteria for taking part in the test. So first of all, they have to have an ID tag on the dog's collar, and the ID tag has to have the owner's name, that's the family name, and address inscribed upon it. That's what the law requires, and that's part of the eligibility for the test. The other 2 points that they need to have is to ensure they have a poop scoop bag with them, and I think they're just about to show those. And the dog needs to be microchipped. From April 2016, it's a legal requirement. All dogs over the age of 8 weeks old have to be microchipped. And I know that the the examiners, have already started that element of the examination today outside of the ring. They've already checked eligibility to make sure that everyone's correct. And they've also checked the collar and lead, which is part of the scheme, to ensure that it's in good repair and it's adequate for the type of dog. And just to show everybody what they would have gone through outside the ring, there's one going through it now with one of the examiners. But everybody has already passed through that part of the scheme already outside the ring. We've done that just to save a bit of time for the folks watching.
And of course to make sure they're eligible to carry on and do their test, I suppose.
Absolutely, and a lot of people often don't consider what they have on the dog's tag. The law says it should be the owner's name and address inscribed upon it. Lots of people don't put their name when they put the dog's name. Lots of people don't put their address and put a phone number. But the law requires name and address, and that's what we ask for as part of the eligibility for the scheme.
And we're checking collars and leads, I suppose, to make sure we haven't got 8 dogs all playing in the ring with their leads broken. Absolutely,
yes. And also to make sure it's not fitted too tightly, that it's correct. And of course, very recently, the rules have changed at the Good Citizen Dog Scheme, and we now allow body harnesses and gentle leaders, so they would need to be checked over thoroughly as well.
Yeah, it looks like we've got all collars and leads today, though.
We have indeed.
Have you? So you've tested the scheme then, so you're going to help us describe what our examiners are looking for with these dogs?
Yes. I mean, there is a very strict standard that the Kennel Club Good Citizen Dog Scheme has, but of course every examiner will approach things slightly differently, so I can give my perspective of what I think we should be looking for and what I think would be acceptable. But of course it's the examiner on the day that decides.
So it looks like we're just getting ready to do various things. So on this side here, we're just starting. We brought a dog out, and she's walking down the ring. So what do you think we're looking for here?
It's obviously the walk on lead exercise, and the examiner will be looking to ensure that the dog is under control. It's not pulling. The last thing we want is to go out on a walk and the dog trying to yank our arm off. So a controlled dog, a fairly loose lead, although the occasional tight lead may be required, but fairly loose lead, under control and attentive to the owner.
Well, it looks like those two are doing quite well. And behind us, they've all got brushes out, so I take it this is going to be grooming.
Yes, as part of the scheme, the handler is required to groom their own dog. Now this covers a number of things. First of all, it's a great way of bonding with your dog. Secondly, it's to ensure that the dog is happy with you grooming. We do allow mild avoidance, but it is mild avoidance. If the dog starts chewing at the grooming implement, thinking it's a toy, or snapping back at the owner, then that wouldn't be acceptable. And we're looking to be able to groom the dog all over, looking for any lumps and bumps, ticks, thurs, bristles, anything like that. And we're grooming all parts of the area. And you can see the judge over there asking specifically, can you do a certain area of the body? So just got the dog into the sit. I think she's looking to see that you can brush or groom all the way down the back.
Yes, looks like the tail end of that dog. She wants to check that they're doing that. So in a training class, they'd have been told what sort of equipment to use to groom the dog, would they? Does it matter what they use?
It doesn't matter what they use, so long as it's appropriate for the dog. For example, a lot of the short-haired dogs, their owners might use a mitt or a soft brush rather than a spiky brush. Something like the retriever has quite a stiff brush, so there's a lot of hair to come out of the dog. So it has to be appropriate for the dog, and also to make sure it's not hurting the dog as well.
And then obviously get rid of the hair in an appropriate manner afterwards.
The one thing that the scheme tries to promote is responsible dog ownership, and yes, it's responsible to get rid of, to dispose of the hair properly.
We're looking at something similar on this side, aren't we? They're going all over the dogs.
Yes, now this is the examination of the dog exercise. Something that your vet might do when you take the dog to the vet. At the bronze level, we expect the handler to be able to examine their own dog. So under the direction of the examiner, they're looking in the eyes, the ears, opening the mouth, checking down the dog's side, checking all of its paws, might be looking at things like grass seeds or that kind of thing. Looking back at its back end, its nether regions, and all areas like that. And again, what we're looking for is the dog to be comfortable with these intrusions, because it could be the vet that's the next person that has to examine the dog. And also that there's no avoidance.
Yes, so how do you think those dogs are doing, in your opinion, obviously?
Well, they all seem relatively calm, so I can't see any avoidance here at the moment.
I suppose it's the judge's opinion whether they've managed to cover all of the dog.
Yes, yes.
And I can see our team leader here has got another lead in her hand.
Yes, this looks like we're going to do the recall or the return to handler exercise. At the bronze level, the handler's required to leave the dog, to go 10 paces away, and to recall the dog to them. So what you can see here is left the dog in the sit, and the helper has the dog on a very loose slip lead, so that when the handler recalls the dog, it slips out of the lead and is able to come back to them. And what the examiner's looking for is an immediate return and an immediate response from the dog. It doesn't necessarily have to be fast, so long as it goes directly back to the handler. If it stops as a little sniff, like a second or two, and then carries on, that might be acceptable. But obviously if it veers off, goes to play with another dog, goes to visit people in the audience, that's not directly back to the owner, so that would probably be deemed not ready.
Did the dog have to sit when it got back to the owner?
No, there's no formal present at the end of it, and the exercise ends when the owner has it back on a lead and under control. So yeah, it can come back in any position. There we see with the poodle, straight back to mum. A little bit flighty, went behind mum, but I think that might probably be acceptable as a pass.
Yes, it came back as her mum was managing to hold its lead. And of course, we've got an atmosphere here and dogs working at the other side of the ring, so they're going towards the side of the ring.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's a very well set up exercise. See the schnauzer about to go now as well, so Lisa just holding the check. It's going to be interesting because the schnauzer looked like he wanted to go in a different direction, but the handler's got his attention. Called him straight back. Yeah, that seemed like a good recall to me.
Yes, return to handler in this one. And I recognise some of these exercises from earlier on today in the special pre-beginner. So they had to do their bronze to do that, didn't they?
Yes.
And on this side, they've moved on and they're doing the same exercise that we were doing earlier on the other side. Slightly different dogs. And did you mention a mitt?
I did indeed. As you can see at the end, our young lady grooming the dog with a mitt. Some dogs prefer the mitt. It's whatever you want with them and whatever works best for you. What the trainer would advise on is methods of doing it, and whether or not it's painful for the dog or uncomfortable for the dog, the way they're grooming them. So we can see, yeah, the mitt being used down the end. Dog may be thinking it's a game, so I'm not sure about that. But everyone else seemed to groom quite nicely.
I've noticed that they've got toys. Are they allowed to do anything in between the exercises to reward their dogs?
Well, food's not allowed, full stop, throughout the testing. Some examiners may tell them to have a play with their dogs, and of course we do look for play in the dog anyway, because it's all part of that training process. So some examiners might, to put them at ease, say play with your dog or praise your dog, or just spend a minute or two relaxing them.
So I noticed it was in between the exercises rather than as part of it.
Yes, I think that might be frowned upon if they took the toys out during the exercise. Although sometimes when you're doing the return to handler, it can be done with a toy to get the dog to run away from you and then recall the dog so it comes back to you. But that should not be a formal retrieve like you would in obedience.
And oh right, so that's returning. And on this side, weaving in and out. So what part of the test is that for?
Right, this is a section that we call walking amongst people and dogs as distractions. So whilst the one person is walking around and weaving in and out the other dogs, the other 3 dogs are acting as a distraction. Now what's interesting here is all 4 dogs are under test at all the time. So although one's walking around, we're looking for that one to be under control, attentive to the hand, he's not trying to lunge at the other dogs or play with them or interfere with them. But at the same time, we're looking for the dogs that are stationary not to be interfering with the dog that's walking past. So at the moment, we have 4 very calm dogs, by the look of it.
Yes.
So working quite nicely.
They look all right to me anyway. On the other side, the examiner is actually speaking to one of the handlers. Do the handlers have to answer questions?
They do indeed. It's not just showing that we're responsible dog owners, we have to prove that we have the knowledge for it as well. So at the bronze level, we have to ask a number of questions that the examiner may put to us. And these are all on topics that the Kennel Club publish at the various levels of the scheme. So this would be from what we call section 1 of the Code of Practice for the Good Citizen Dog Scheme, which is relevant to the bronze level.
Yes, so they just need to get a number of questions correct and then they can move on.
They have to get 3 questions right, and the examiner may ask up to 6 questions. Obviously, if we get to question 7 and they haven't got one right, then there's obviously something not quite right there with their underpinning knowledge.
Yeah, what sort of questions might we be asking?
Well, I won't give some examples of questions because there's a lot might hear and give.
Oh, right.
But there's some topics that we cover really.
Yeah, the topics that
so
we
it
cover.
will cover things like the welfare of the dogs, some of the things that dogs might need. It will cover things about feeding, so very basic knowledge on dog ownership and how to be responsible. They might ask questions about what information needs to be on a dog's tag, what you have to do if your dog defecates in public, those kind of things.
Oh, I see. Right, they're just having a bit of a break over this side before they move on to the next one. We've had the gate appear in the middle of the ring. Is this part of the test as well?
Yes, at some point all the dogs will be going through the gate exercise. In fact, I think that might be happening as we speak. So what we're looking for here is the dog to walk calmly and under control through a gate or door. Now we're using a gate in this instance, but sometimes it could be examined through a door. And what we're looking for is the dog to be under control and waiting to be commanded to come through the gate, as we're seeing now, and under control at the other side before the gate is closed. It doesn't have to go into any formal position, it can stand. But what we're looking for not to happen is for the gate to open and the dog to go shooting through with your arm following it. So we're trying to simulate life situations. It could be a front door, it could be a car door, something like that.
Yes, so certainly if you had a big heavy gate to close, you wouldn't want your dog jumping around all over the place.
Absolutely not. So that was, I think that was very well by our young cross shepherd. I think is it cross shepherd, full shepherd? Full shepherd, beg your pardon, very pretty. Our schnauzers, got some interest
and
outside.
And our retriever over there is having a rest. Looks like we're moving on to our return to handler on this side behind us.
Our schnauzer seems to do that very well as well. He looks like he's interested in everything that's going on, and it's fair to mention, I think you mentioned it earlier, Chris, this is a very strange environment for the dogs. It's very stale, very clinical. It's lots of different smells around, lots of people, lots of noise. So our schnauzer looks like he's interested in lots of other things at the moment, but seems to be doing the exercise as well. Lovely wait for the command from our poodle.
So it's looking good on this side so far?
I think so. They all look like they're nicely under control. Nobody's pulling through the gate or demanding to go before the handler.
Yeah, so it's what you'd be looking for, the types of behaviour.
Yes, yeah, absolutely.
I think we just had
very
recall.
fast return to handler there. We saw this earlier on the other side, so we see Paul holding the dog on a slip lead. The handler's going to leave the dog, take the lead with them, of course. And then she's going to recall the dog. She's got the dog's attention already. And what the examiner's looking for is an immediate return. That's a very fast return.
You left me, Mum, that was.
And then that one presented itself and sat down nicely. As I said earlier, there is no requirement for a formal present at the end. The test ends when the lead is back on the dog.
Well, that's lovely, really, so that in the end they'd be able to use that when they're out and about. So these exercises really are for life, aren't they?
Absolutely, yes. And I mentioned the formal present just now. If the dog does formally present, that's acceptable as well. So there we see this one, a bit of a jump, but wasn't looking to run away or anything like that. Jumping up because it's excited to see Mum. So I believe that's acceptable as well.
Yes, so it looks like all the dogs, we haven't got any loose dogs, so all our dogs have obviously returned to their handlers all the way through. And we're doing the different things on the different sides. So we've already talked about walking on a nice loose lead, haven't we?
We have indeed. And this is a lovely loose lead. Our dog looks very relaxed, a little bit interested in all the markings on the floor, but not doing anything that I would consider to be not ready for this test. So, yeah, very nice walk. Looks a little bit tired actually, if anything.
Well, they've been here all day, and as we said, it's a very stressful environment for them. I think if they can pass their test here, that will be absolutely fabulous.
And it's worth, stating the obvious, but they're very brave to actually come out and be tested with an audience. I don't think I would like to go through the test with my dog and have a couple hundred people watching me while I do it.
And we've moved on to the control at door or gate on this side. So we've talked about this. This could be anything, I understand. A door in a proper gate, like this one is a properly constructed gate, or a real gate.
Yep. I mean, you can take tests in various places. Often they take place in dog training clubs, but they might not have set up a gate like this. So it could be a door into the hall or a door into another room. And the examiner would have made sure that everything was safe for the dog. There was no obstacles or no danger of it running away either side, or nobody else was going to startle it in some way. But yeah, any door or gate could be used.
Did you say that they had to sit before they went through the gate? Because lots of the dogs seem to be.
They do, but they don't. It's not a requirement. There's no requirement to sit before or after going through the gate. All we require is the dog to be under control and not pulling. So if it's a stand, that's fine. If it's a sit, that's fine. And all the handlers, they've been very careful to ensure that it's under control when they close the gate.
Right.
Which of course is part of the country code as well.
Well, yes, if you were in a field and you were trying to close a big gate, the last thing you'd want is the dog jumping around on the end of the lead.
Yes.
So these are still continuing with their walking on a loose lead. Is there part of the test, do I remember, about talking to somebody, having a conversation?
You do remember, right? And we're seeing it right here. So what's the team leader? So now the examiner's going around. So we're having that 1 minute conversation with all the dogs in a group, but also she's going through the responsibility and care questions. So a slightly different way to what we saw over here. Over here we saw them being questioned individually. The examiner here is asking them questions as a group.
So it doesn't matter which way, as long as the handler gets different questions. So here they'd have to have different questions.
Yes, or the examiner might give a broad subject. So they might say to them, well, give me one example of a dog's needs, and then each one would have to give a different answer.
Yes, and of course the conversation over that side was an individual conversation. So yes, I thought
so you could actually ask the same questions of the same people over there.
Yeah. They all look fairly calm at the moment. I think the stays will be the telling time.
Yes. Stays are always interesting, but so far, I think all these dogs are ready, from what I've seen. But as I said, although there is a standard, and we all work to a very high standard when we're examining, it's these two examiners that will ultimately decide if dogs pass or not ready today.
Absolutely, because we're not in front of the dog seeing how it's reacting to being looked at, although they appear to be. So here we're covering, we did the grooming earlier on, and this is the examination?
I think it is, yeah. So the examiner is asking the handler, can you look in your dog's eyes, in its ears? Sometimes they ask you to smell the ears, in case the dog has mites or canker or something like that. looking in the dog's mouth, make sure there's no obstructions or anything stuck in its teeth or things like that. And then to run the hands down the body, often down its flanks, down its legs, often spread the pads to the toes, and back to its nether regions and under the tail. So all the sort of things that the vet would normally do in a beachy dog, it's the examiner. So it's making sure that the dog doesn't react adversely to it, that it's comfortable with being handled in this way.
Well, I suppose once the dog's learnt to be handled in this way, then it's happier being handled in this way by somebody like a vet in the future. So it really does prepare it.
Yeah. When we got to the silver level of the scheme, it's somebody unknown. Oh, sorry, it's the examiner that examines the dog at the silver. And at the gold level, it's somebody unknown to the dog.
Yes, so that it's definitely a progression, and at this stage they're being asked to check various things, so they need to be able to open their mouth, do they? Have I noticed? Need to open the dog's mouth.
Yeah, absolutely. And often if the dog won't open its mouth, the examiner will give some gentle encouragement as to how it can be achieved. If the dog really won't open its mouth at all, then there might be some consideration that it's not quite ready as this section of the test.
Yes, they're certainly putting their hands all over. They've finished the conversation on this side. So, in my head, I think we're almost ready for our stage.
I think we are. Yeah, just been informed, Chris, that we are now waiting on the stays, but all 8 are going to do the stays at the same time.
Okay, so I know it's a really noisy atmosphere here, but we will go quiet in here through the stays because we certainly wouldn't want to put anything off with feedback from the microphones. So, and when they are doing their stays, I know that it is noisy in here, but if you could keep any children or dogs right away from the fence round the ring, that would help them, wouldn't it?
I think it would. We don't want to give them any unfair distractions. Reasonable distractions are acceptable in the test. But I think also when we do go quiet, we'll step away towards the comms link here.
So,
what I was just going to say, Chris, what the examiner will be looking for though
that's
is
what I was just going to ask.
I thought you were right, yes. It's a 1-minute stay, so they're going to put the dog in a position. It could be any position of their choice. And then they will leave the dog, they will drop the lead, walk to the end of the lead, probably stand on it. But they'll be a few paces away from the dog, and the dog needs to stay in that position for a minute.
So by position you mean sit, stand or down?
Yes, that's correct.
Sit, stand or down, and then the dog has got to stay in that. They can't move from one position to another.
You can have mild shifting, so for example, you get Labrador, he's sitting on, doing the sit, and then he moves off one button, that's absolutely fine. Or you might get a dog that's left in the stand and he starts padding a bit, that's fine as well, but it can't obviously walk away or...
And can the handler talk to their dog all the time?
No, they can give the occasional command, but they can't constantly command their dog.
Right, we're going to move out the way. And the owners are going to leave the dogs and move towards the outside of the ring, I think, aren't they?
Looks like the plan to me.
So we'll leave it for now until they finish their stay.
I think that deserves a round of applause, folks. That was very well done.
Oh.
Now, unfortunately, we did see the little cross Shih Tzu at the end there. Lovely little dog. I met him earlier. And he's a curious fella, isn't he? He's always on the alert, looking around, and I think he just wanted to be with Mum. And unfortunately, our golden retriever, probably about 2/3 of the way through, decided, Mum, I've had enough.
I think they're so brave. I was holding my breath for them, and but the others all looked as if they were reasonably good. I didn't watch, but we'll just have to see what happens.
It looks like we've still got one more exercise to go on this side, which is the walk through people and dogs as distractions.
Oh, so they just stopped so that we could have all the stays together and we weren't having movement on one side of the ring and not on the other side. That wouldn't have helped them, would it?
Very good organisation on the examiner's part to have put it together in that way, and fair to the owners of dogs as well.
Yes, so there shouldn't be many left on this side to do though,
I think that might be the last one, and then
because they've done their questions, haven't they?
Yeah. Now, of course, one thing worth noting is that with this exam, unlike other exams where you get a percentage pass mark, with the Good Citizen Dog Scheme, it's either pass or not ready, and you have to pass all 10 elements to pass the test.
So those two dogs can't just do their stay again; they have to do everything.
No, unfortunately, what will happen if you can sometimes give them a second chance if there's been an exceptional circumstance that created the situation for them to move. I don't believe that there was anything exceptional that happened during that period for a retake, so they wouldn't be able to retake them. But the examiner and the trainer there now talking to the candidate, probably explaining what they need to do in the future and what's happened and what's not happened today. So there's a lot of feedback given. And the great thing for that young lady is her dog done 90% of what it needed to do today.
Yes, and if it can do that much here, I'm sure it won't be long before she can get it.
No, they probably will speak to her, or her instructor will, about what she can do to start building that dog up for its stays. But as I said, it's a very active dog. It's very curious, and it's all the time on the go, looking around what it can look at and explore. So I think it's just part of that dog's character that it doesn't want to stay still for long. And I think our golden retriever just missed Mum.
I think these people have also finished all their exercises on this side of the ring. So that's it. We just need to see if there was anything else that we've missed that the judges have seen. And we'll be able to do our presentation.
Presentation's fairly soon. So, with all the testing now complete, give them all a big round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. It was so great to actually come out and be tested in front of an audience. If the handlers and dogs would like to line up, as we did at the beginning in the front here, and we will find out from the examiners what the final result is. Very difficult thing to come out in front of an audience and take a test. So these people are very brave and done very well. We're just about to give out the awards.
Okay, so all these people have just had a few weeks training at their clubs, and they've been invited along here and accepted that invite to come and take their test. So they've been in a couple of times during the day, and you've just seen them take their test. And we know that a couple of them weren't ready on the stay, but we
believe so. We don't know yet.
We believe that there may have been a couple not ready on the stay, but we just need to see if there was anything else that may not have been.
Well, we'll soon find out.
Okay, so we'll find out what's happening now.
Okay. Right, so first of all, congratulations to Charlotte Sinclair with Misty. Becky. And also Carrie and Roma. And also a big round of applause for Becky and Henry, who weren't quite ready today. Big round of applause. Give them a wave, Becky. You've done exceptionally well.
Okay, and then the other group. Big congratulations to Jenny and Dory. And another pass for Andy and Bramble. A pass for Pauline and Busy, who's brought her own fan club. Unfortunately, are not ready for Sarah and Roxy, but a big round of applause. Well done, you. And a thank you very much, extreme thank you to our two examiners who've been in here this afternoon for coming.
Big round of applause. That was very well done, ladies. I was impressed with the way you set the test, so thank you both very much.
Thank you.
And also, once more, big round of applause for our X Factor